Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Think Future. My name's Chris Kalaboukis, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We're talking innovation startups, the future. Not necessarily those, and not necessarily in that order. If you're watching on YouTube, smack that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new show comes online. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast service, please subscribe and please drop a note on Apple Podcasts. I'd greatly appreciate it. So, I have been, for the longest time, talking about change and how we deal with change. And I think one of the problems with human beings, one of the problems that most human beings have, is that we fear change. When things change, it throws us for a loop. We like the steady state. But of course, the reality is there's no such thing as a steady state, because things change all the time. Life is change. Now, if life is change, now I think life is change. Some people think, no, life isn't change. Life is life. Life isn't change. Change only happens every now and then. But if you ask me, change happens all the time. Change is built into the fabric of life. That's what life is. Life is change. And if you embrace change, you can embrace life. But then I think to myself, change might not be all of it is. May not be all there is. Change is always there. Things are always changing all the time. Things are never, ever in a steady state. I mean, first of all, we have to get rid of that thought. We have to get rid of the initial thought that there is such a thing as a steady state where things don't change. Because even something that appears not to be changing is changing all the time underneath, maybe in minute ways, but there are changes happening all the time. So change is always occurring. It may or may not be visible, but it's always happening. So change occurs. Now, the problem with embracing change is that we have to look at change as a constant. If we look at change as a constant, then we know that there'll always be change. So when a change comes along, no matter what it is, if it's a good change or a positive change or a negative change, it doesn't matter whether it's a positive or negative change. If you understand that life is change, and if you understand that change is always happening, then if anything changes for the good or for the bad, you won't be surprised. You won't be upset. You won't be, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But if you do that, you also have to build a different kind of skill. And this skill is resilience. Because if things change and you are nonplussed by the changes, you have to be able to deal with the changes as they occur. And that is why you need to be resilient against the change. So instead of figuring out, this is probably going to happen, 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 which is a lot of scenario planning and futurism, you figure out these things that are going to happen. But the reality is that they may or may not happen. In fact, there's a good chance that they won't happen. Although I firmly believe that everything will happen. The only question is when. So let's go beyond change. Because we know, let's assume that life is change and everything changes all the time. And we've embraced change. And whether it's a good change or a bad change, we'll embrace it. We say, come on, come at me. Whatever it is, come at me. So what do? If it's a positive change, we're like, yes, this is great. This is great. But even when a positive change comes along, sometimes if we have a pessimistic attitude, we think, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Okay, I know this is good right now, but something's going to happen and I'm going to lose it all. Or if a negative thing happens to me, it's like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. That's it. I'm done. How do you deal with change? How do you deal with unerring, unending change? Resilience. You have to be able to bounce back from whatever comes your way. If it's a positive thing comes your way, take it in stride. Use it as much as you can. If a negative thing comes your way, take it in stride. Use it as much as you can. See if you can use it as a learning moment, as a teachable moment, as something that you can go, whoa, this horrible thing happened to me. What can I learn from this? How can I do things differently? If you stop fearing change, if you believe that change is a thing that just happens all the time, it's part of life, then the next step is to make sure that whenever a change occurs, that you roll with it. Good changes, not a problem. Bad changes, what can I learn from this? Pain. Let me give you an example on pain. When you're working out and you want to build muscle, pain is actually a good sign, because the ache, the pain, means your muscles are ripped, they're torn, they're shredded, and they're rebuilding themselves. What do you think bodybuilders do? What do you think these super high-end athletes do when they feel pain? They welcome the pain in some cases. They welcome the pain because they know that the pain is an indication that they're gaining, that they're going ahead. See, this is we have such an interesting relationship with pain, because there's plenty of people who have control over their minds when it comes to pain. You can control pain to a certain extent. You can reduce pain, you can increase pain, you can control pain. I mean, people who have honed their mental processes can even eliminate pain in some cases. So the thing is that when we feel pain in our lives, when negative things occur in our lives, we use that as a source of strength to fight against it, or to improve ourselves against it, to become more resilient against it next time, because you know that these things will happen. I mean, despite the fact that, you know, whether we decide to build a utopia, like I talked about in my last show, there's still going to be elements of your life that are going to be full of pain. Change can be positive or negative, and you may have negative change in your life. You need to embrace both the positive change and the negative change. And that's the other thing that we have to worry about, is that we don't know the future. We have some inklings as to what's going to happen. But the number one thing we know about the future is that we are uncertain about it. We don't know what's going to happen. And I think this is the thing that, in fact, most people hate more than anything, is the uncertainty. What is going to happen next? The answer is, I don't know. I can make some guesses. I can make some predictions. But knowing, that's not possible. That's not possible right now. Maybe at some point in the future when we have AIs that can look at all the data points that are out there and guess within a certain amount of percentage points of what path is the right path. It's like Doctor Strange going through all those metaverses and deciding which way to go. What is the path that we need to take in order to defeat Thanos? We don't know. We don't know. We're uncertain about the future. And sometimes this uncertainty drives us crazy, right? We hate uncertainty. Human beings hate uncertainty. But the problem is, and it's just like change, uncertainty is with us all the time. We do not know what's going to happen next. We do not. And we could have something positive happen next and something negative happen next. But whatever happens next, we have to understand that we don't know. And the more we can accept the fact that we don't know what's going to happen next, and we can embrace the fact that we don't know what's going to happen next, then if you think about it, life will get better, because uncertainty is always there. Change is always there. And if you can embrace the uncertainty, embrace the change, and realize that no matter what happens, we can bounce back against it, we can fight against it, we can prevail against it, then you don't have to worry about fearing uncertainty anymore. Imagine uncertainty is a solid object that you can never get away from, because that's what it is. We will never know exactly what's going to happen next. But if we know that we won't know, then we know that we can bounce back from whatever, or build ourselves up so that we can bounce back from whatever it is. Whatever it is. Uncertainty is fact. It's like death and taxes. Death is going to come. Taxes may not necessarily so, but uncertainty for sure. Uncertainty and death, maybe that's part of the human condition. Although I'd love to see the end of death too. That would be great. Uncertainty maybe is the only thing that we can count on in this life, or in this world, or in this universe. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.